Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we are out of executive session, back into our regular meeting. We discuss litigation matters, no actions to take. Financial review. Autumn, I know you sent out the.
Yep, so you have three separate check registers, one for the RDA, one for the EPA, and one for the REP program. And then the financial statements.
Are there questions on so the major payment? So we have a KU Resources, which is EPA, for $32,734.04. Separate volumes now. Our programs. So then we have our just so we have 20,738 of invoices, 4,855 for Tucker, Ahrensberger, 5690 for Susquehanna Accounting Group, and then 2 for South Central Workforce, which are under all home repairs, which is the mandated workforce component of that program. And then we have a third, right? Payment register under REP with a total of $32,478.81. Are there any questions on the financials or on the payments? No, we look for a motion to approve the financials and the payments. Motion. Is there a second? It was moved already. Charles, you're second?
Okay.
All right. Charles is the second. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Nothing under new business on staff reports under whole home repairs. George, talk about where we are with the RFQ.
Yeah, so we currently have 2 contractors on the whole home repairs program. It's a grant program from the state that offers up to $50,000 max on each individual residential home of low-income individuals to address ADA compliant issues as well as habitability and any other deficiencies in the house. So that being said, we're trying to find more contractors to complete the total of 40 homes that we've identified in the program. We do have an excess of about 90 other applications that we don't have the funding for. The state awarded us about $2.8 million. 400,000 of that went to a workforce development program. We did a partnership with South Central Workforce Investment Board, Jesse McCreed. They've done a good job with those dollars. We'll talk about that in the reports as well. But, so we're going to do an RFP, try to get a couple more companies hired so we can complete these probably about 30 homes we need to have done before December 31st, 2026. State kind of wants us to have these homes done by the end of the year. I don't know if that's possible. We're going to try to make that goal. If we don't, we'll try to have them done by first quarter, second quarter, 2026. Our goal, I would say. So, okay, I think that's the RFPs. We didn't want to see them.
It's going to be posted in the paper on Tuesday. Everything was approved. We'll have notice, and then the deadline to have the information back to us is the 27th.
What are we allowed to do? I mean, I know we have a legal process for RFQs. If you look at our history on putting those things out, including very recently trying to get a broker on the property for Land Bank in Londonderry Township on our RFQ for the first round of this, we get no responses. You know, we're putting these things in the paper. There's a paper, is this paper? I mean, I don't have this paper, I guess, that's what.
No, I think there is actually,
So-
because they only go in on
But,
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
but I mean, it's a process that hasn't caught up to where the world is now. And no one's responding to these things. I mean, we're doing $50,000 at a pop contractor projects, and we have no contractors really that are coming forward. Like, we're really working hard to try to get people. I guess maybe, Kayla, this question for you. I mean, are we allowed to direct people to this stuff? Can we try to drum up? I mean, I know contractors. I don't, we just need to get people to look at it and decide if they're willing to reply.
Are
It's-
contractors not generally looking at these places though? I feel as if they are for more business, they should be, unless they're already, but if people are reaching out, then there should be no issue with directing them to say, hey, we do have these programs. This is where it is, look into it. We just have a process that we have to follow, so.
If you don't here, are there any trade groups that we can reach out to? Because maybe it's easier.
Can we post in other places? Can we, are there other ways? We're meeting the legal requirements.
Right.
Yeah,
Can we then go beyond that?
So,
like when I see it's kind of after the meeting, when I see posted, I just share it, not even comment, I just share it on my commissioner page, share it on my personal page. People see that, they don't necessarily comment. But anyways, I think for things like this, it's going to reward me money. Probably best to identify any trade groups, any group whatsoever in the county who may be who we can target. And hey, please for associations, give this to your members. Do we have a list of those in the first place?
So I know for our other program, for the federal program, the coordinator of that program, like he did do an email blast. He had a list. I don't really know that really didn't ever see a huge response. Just wondering, can we post it on the Dauphin County Facebook page?
I'm thinking the builders trade,
Yeah.
we probably can post
Home
that.
Builders Association.
Home Builders Association.
Also, do we have a like on the Dauphin County website? And I'm sorry. Do we have like one designated URL that has these are all the RFPs? Because there's so many departments, there's so many commissions, whatever, and people get lost in that one. If we have one sort of page where this all the things, so and then we can optimize that, announce it during the commissioners meeting. If you're looking to do business with the county, this is where you go. Just one thing. Don't just if you do it like, oh, you can go with this, they'll never get it. But if there's a one central, just post all there, maybe it's easier for us to attract bidders.
I know the county, I know they were discussing that, Fred, to try to have a one URL link to have all of the RFPs on the site somewhere. They were talking about that at one of the commissioners meetings, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's been done or not. That would be an IT question, to see if they create that URL.
There's still enough people are in the public that are looking for that on our website. So I almost think if Matt's point, we do the legal requirement, and it's not inappropriate, I don't think, to blitz your list, my list, his list. Just to let people know if they're in that business, as long as it's not only one person applies, that's my cousin. And you got the legal requirement.
But wait a minute, but let's keep it real. I mean, a lot of people don't want to do governmental work, and a lot of these contractors, they don't want to work in the city. So you got to think, the city had an RFP out for the Broad Street Market after it burned down. They got no responses. So come on, let's keep it real. People don't like working on these programs because of the problems like we just passed. They don't want to deal with it. So I'm not saying that people aren't seeing this. They probably are. They don't want to deal with governmental work. Number one, you're not getting your payment right away. You gotta wait normally. These guys don't want to wait for that. Then you gotta be bonded. Then you need that base paint certification. A lot of these guys don't have that. They don't want to deal with this stuff. And I hate to say that. And I told the city, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really want to take this program on, to be honest with you, because it's nothing, it's problems. But are we helping people? We are. But it's just so many regulations with it, it becomes an issue, and then, you have issues.
I think that's
But
that's like the step two. I think we have to just get to step one, which is make this accessible. And then I guess you made a good point there. A lot of our rules and regulations and requirements that makes it hard, especially for small business to even do that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that could be a discussion for people on top of paper.
Yeah.
But that is step two or beyond. But like, and the reason I said I mentioned the URLs because when we were doing our RFP for the tax for our IT services, and I go with the cybersecurity mixer once a month, and we get tons of just by joining there and telling, hey, we have this RFP and this is the URL. Let's go there because I can't email you every single time we have something, but we have one URL for these things. They get to see that and maybe as something.
and you guys can place that on your website.
Like our HQ.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just think, well, I know a lot of contractors, but I'm not getting. I don't want to know. So
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Well, hopefully we get some responses.
Yeah, we have some companies that have some
that.
interest.
It's just, it's not healthy from a quality standpoint. Getting on the
One or
lawn.
two, yeah.
I mean, that just, yeah. It's just in a tough position.
I think it's more, talking to the contractors, making them feel comfortable that, number one, they are gonna get paid on time. Number two.
That is the
no
benefit, I
issues.
mean, generally, we
Right.
have the money,
Yeah,
you're not worried about us not paying, you're
Right.
generally paying.
but I mean, back in the day, when we were on the redevelopment authority board, when the housing authority had it, it would take 45 days to get one check. Because you had to wait for the board meeting, that was 30 days.
Yeah.
Then you had to wait till the check was processed. Now all of them has streamlined our process down to, I'll say 7 to 10 days. But before it was like 45 days. So we had contractors that were like, I can't wait that long to get a check. Like I gotta pay these guys. And if you're not paying me, it's coming out of my pocket to pay Terry, Jim, and Joe that did your drywall, whatever it may be. And then I'm out $5,000 or whatever it may be for 45 days. A lot of these guys can't float that money that much. So that's why they don't want to get involved in that. But I think if you assure them that you're gonna get a check in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a little more comforting, but still, there are issues.
These prevailing wage jobs,
Yes.
Yes,
it's over the threshold,
yeah.
that's a hurdle, small.
Well, the hurdles are set, the hurdles.
Just to
is-
do it, just to know it.
The hurdle's the lead-based paint certification, that's the
I mean-
hurdle. Not a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah,
And we can't use you if you don't have a lead-based paint certification. Because most of these houses are pre-78 built,
yeah.
so there's gonna be lead-based paint in the house. And that causes, we know, other problems.
Yeah, you get it. All right, anything else on home repairs?
So George had mentioned about the workforce development. I did include their last report to me in the packet. They're about halfway through sending down their money, but they're doing a really good job. So there is a complete report of what they have done so far.
Yes, we had that video, they created a nice video where they had some of their clients that did some interviews about workforce development and this program that utilized our dollars where they were trained in drywall or electric work or whatever it may be, and then went out and got a job with a construction company and a sustainable salary living for them. So I think we'll try to get that. Remember that video?
Sure.
We should let the board see that next month, so they can kind of see how these dollars are being used,
It's
if that's possible.
it's not really very possible. I was talking to the IT guy this morning, which is why we really can't do Teams in here. It's just
So we can't put stuff on the screen.
not very. They fight. Systems are fighting.
Well, we can put it on the laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can put it on the laptop or something.
I mean, I can send it individually
Yeah, you could do that.
to
We'll do that.
everybody.
just so you can see the video and see how the dollars. Pretty cool to see some of these kids that learn the skill now, and, you know, maybe graduated high school, didn't go to college, but they learned a trade and making good money.
Okay. All right, next item is, on there, the 2023 PA Brownfields grant.
Jill, did you have one? Jill Gata was supposed to.
Oh, okay.
Talk about, and she respond back to you.
But I thought we were several tables.
Yeah, my understanding, so there were two projects that were kind of late breaking that the consultant brought to the table to do in Steelton. But, George in the office hasn't had a chance to take a look at these projects before.
Jill was gonna get on and explain the project since we really.
Okay, well, I think it's important that it goes through your review first before it comes to the board. I mean, you know, that's kind of how we've always run these. I know they're moving fast. I hate holding things back, just the process, but I don't, and we need to make sure before we just sort of with partial information approve these things, that all of the boxes have been checked, that we check before we say this is a project we should put into this funding source. How everybody else feels about that, but it, you know, these dollars are intended to be used strategically. Other things that tie to the projects we're doing or have some greater, you know, community economic development goal. And I think we just need to make sure that exists before we just say yes. All right, so I don't know that we need to take any formal tabling action. I mean, this will probably could appear on the next agenda if you know, George and officers recommending that we approve these. All right, Research and Enterprise Development LLC. I know in the packet, there's a report from Paul Hallaker, who is Research Enterprise Development. He is the contractor who has been here in the past and is working with Harrisburg on the gaming dollars that the redevelopment has been awarded over the last several years. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at his report, but essentially the original dollars that were allocated through the redevelopment authority was $110,000 plus minus. That weird number. That's not the exact. Has been or will be expended in this June, in their last June bill. So that closes out. That will close out that grant. There's a $72,000 grant that the redevelopment authority was awarded by the gaming board in 2024. That money has not been expended, and what we're looking at today is a proposal. One, look at their activities that they've done and the successes they've had, and then look to extend that contract for Research Enterprises for another year to continue the work that they're doing, which has primarily been putting together funding applications, largely for federal, state funding, and with that, putting together the teams, including the redevelopment authority where appropriate, but other local economic development groups and businesses to go after this federal and state funding. To date, they've secured through this effort, 700,000 has been secured in projects. They're all listed in the tables that, I guess table 1 that is in this report. So it's a continuation of the partnership we started with Penn State Harrisburg going after additional state and federal dollars. We have an additional $150,000 award that came in this year in gaming funds. That's again a continuation of that partnership with Penn State Harrisburg, but it's a different project. They're yet to put together the specific scope of work for that to present to this board. But that has more physical infrastructure components to it on their campus. This is a consultant engagement with Paul, again, former University Park employee who was in their research office doing this kind of work, going after federal state grants for that are tied to university activities. Any questions on this? I know, people look at a extension for another year of his contract to continue the work that he's been doing. We have till the end of 2027. Books that year to spend those dollars. So the next one that we are for the 150,000, we have till the end of 2028.
Once the agreement's signed.
Once the agreement is signed to spend those dollars.
You think he's gonna be done by June 30th, 2026?
I don't think so. I don't think on his current burn rate it gets there, but I don't know that was the intention. The intention is just to keep being opportunistic. It's probably slowing down a little bit in terms of opportunities because there's so much money being pulled back in this realm. On the federal level, there's dollars on the state level, but if you look through these, the research and workforce grants is what we've been going after on these.
And then the ultimate goal, after talking to Chancellor Perez, is to build a facility on campus, right? That can accommodate all of these different grants, research and everything. If that's all tied together. So how's the financing in that building? Is that secured or that's some of it?
Yeah, they need to present that to us, but my understanding is they have the commitment. It's not really financing so much as they have the commitment to build out that space, and they're already doing it.
I think
Yeah, what are we paying a month?
It's a
draw request.
It's a draw request. They've been anywhere from like 2,000. The highest I think I've seen recently is like 7.
Yeah, they're little.
Yeah, and it just depends on what projects he has, and his activities are directed by the Office of Research at Penn State Harrisburg. So the dean of research there is the one who is managing a lot of that activity.
What's the cost on that research building?
It's not a building. It's a space within there.
Oh, within the current.
Yeah, I don't know that number. I've toured it, I've seen it. I mean, it's in their science engineering building. They have two really high base spaces with big garage doors on them that they can do significant work in.
So it'll be right. That's.
Yes.
And what will make his engagement end? Is there a finish line or is it continuing to keep bringing things back each year? No way is wrong, but is it, if he finishes this project, then it's done? Or he finishes this project, we go on to the next one, the next one, the next one?
Yeah, if he finishes the project, he's done, unless Penn State Gaming Board or somebody continues to fund that initiative. And we brought, over here before probably recall, I mean, that the redevelopment authority got engaged because we were in a better position to help them pull together coalitions on these grants rather than just Penn State Harrisburg as a single entity, just given the dynamics that drew it with, is it a regional activity, within the county, or is it just all going to Penn State Harrisburg? So bringing the redevelopment authority in helps to build broader engagement. Yeah, they, I'll say with this chancellor, I think there's a lot more engagement, particularly with the community on economic development. I know they have an upcoming meeting with the airport authority where they're starting to talk about, some of it's probably tied to the Crawford Station land that we're engaged in. Some of it is just overall development at the airport and how can the two entities work together. I know they already had one meeting, and I understand went well. Tim Edwards and his team, and I know there's follow-up to that. And, yeah, when we started this, the whole thought was this is a way that the county can get engaged with Penn State Harrisburg and with what they could bring to the table in economic development. I think generally it's been sort of an island unto itself until more recently.
Yeah, I really like James Silvergrass. He really has open arms with us and wants to partner.
Yeah,
Very transparent with what they're doing and state. I think it's gonna be a good partner.
yeah,
Good guy.
yeah. I mean, obviously I'm down there, all the offices. But what's going on that campus right now, you can't drive around it. I mean, the whole place is under construction this summer, trying to, before the students come back and for the fall semester, Penn State is making a lot of investment into that project. I mean, they just announced the new building. It's gonna add, I think, 1,000 new desks. So we're
Did
doing
they
academic building.
announce which campuses? I know they
They did.
are
They,
closing.
Yeah.
Obviously not that one.
no, and the closest ones are York and Mont Alto that are closing.
Well,
And, oh, is it York?
no,
Mont
Yeah.
Alto? Yeah, I mean, they're not talking about it because it kind of runs salt in the wind, I guess, but I mean, that probably benefits Penn State Harrisburg. I mean, but they have made a commitment. I mean, this new building, I forget the cost of this new building, but it's a one-figure kind of number, going into the new building.
that's good to see.
Yeah.
What's how many acres on that campus? That they
I don't know.
own?
I don't know what their acres are.
Like what's,
Like
I mean,
what's
they're
the-
gonna build that out at some.
Yeah, they have.
I mean,
They bought the old Demi School, the Grandview Elementary School that ordered it, that they've done nothing with. They have an additional 5 acres that they had a practice soccer field on that is expansion land. I mean, they have quite a bit of property there. So, yeah, this is more, we're in this as an applicant to the gaming board with Penn State in tow. They shifted that to us after discussions with them. And, but we're not merely intended to be a pass-through. Like, we really are there to be that county partnership piece to this. Yeah, I mean, they, for $100,000, they brought in 700. You always hope to hit the big one. Do you hit the $5 million, $10 million federal award? It's probably something that's federal. That hasn't happened yet. But a year gives Paul, in this contract, more time to keep going, continue the ones that are still hanging out there. And then it gives us a chance to take a look and make sure that it's going the way it's supposed to be going. I mean, I think the one thing that occurred in this is that we had a pretty big impact on was they all came in with one of their proposals, and the thought from the board was they needed to make it more inclusive and bring in Harrisburg U, and they did. I don't think that award occurred, but probably for the first time those two entities actually partnered on something. So, which was at least a good start. That,
part of that.
and we were part of that partnership as well. We've been part of that one. We were part of Workforce One. I think it's still pending at the Department of Labor and Industry. So,
I don't think that partnership.
yeah, it doesn't. Definitely doesn't. Definitely doesn't. So, all right. Thoughts on this?
There's a lot here that they're all very interesting, and I'll be interested to take a look at these two ones when we started or something.
Anytime we want Paul to come in, I know he'll come in. He'll make himself available to come in and have a discussion, presentation. So if there's anything in here people want to see him on, or the Penn State folks. Sherry, who's the head of research there, would be more than happy to come in and present. I know this year, the chancellor presented to the gaming board, came in and presented his vision at the 150. And I don't know when the last time the chancellor's come in to present to the commissioners. He's done individual meetings and has had a lot of individual phone calls, I know, with the commissioners. So I know he's already worked. He's been chancellor for a year and a half.
But they've been down there.
But yeah. So he's really in tune with that and trying to really be part of the community. So which is great to see.
And for this one, like just under agency review, is it this agency or some other agency reviewing all this?
It's another, they're all generally federal, state.
Okay.
Yeah,
This side then, right?
yeah, the federal ones are the big ones. Those, we've been a bunch in there and, NIH or NSF, they're large. Hopefully those dollar flows will continue, but that's,
Do we know if any of the earmark or whatever budget has been, revoked or something?
there's definitely been reviews. I mean, I hear it down there that they're cautious. I haven't heard of any decisions yet of any research grants that are impacting, but I do know there's definitely nervousness about where the budget's going federally and then just what is being approved at universities for research in general. I think that's been pretty much across the country. Big research universities. All right, we'd have to take action on this. Is there
So the contract currently ends at the end of June. So-
yes, contract. So when we last extended it, we extended it to the end of June. And the charge was to expend those dollars. Those dollars did need to be expended. And that occurred. If you recall, we rolled up, like a whole bunch of money that Penn State was holding got rolled up, sent back to the commissioners,
Right.
and the commissioners
Reality.
reallocated it to us. And that's when the whole partnership got put together. So Penn State kind of trusted that they were moving money they had been awarded, sort of set it back, and then we put together the partnership and then applied for the money in 24, which is what this extension would do, the 24-25. And then the 25 award that just occurred of 150,000 to the redevelopment authority was the next piece. And it's totally different from this.
This is the closeout.
Right. And then the thought, I don't know where discussions are, but some discussion probably needs to occur. But, they're looking to apply for this next round, the 25-26 round of gaming down the road. So for now, for that gaming cycle.
All right, so the contract terms remain the same. In every respect. So
It's just an extension, it's just an extension of existing contract.
need a motion on it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Right to know request responses. I don't think that went out. So just a follow up to our last meeting, when we were discussing how to handle our public relations activities, since we've had a lot of requests as of late, both right to know requests, which have then also created requests, just follow-ups, general press release, primarily from Penn Live. Jeanette has been working tirelessly with us
Nick, come on.
on our approach to the press. And I think we've been really responsive to the press today. And a lot of work has gone into the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks of making sure Penn Live has and any press has a pathway to access, any information they want, any responses they want from us, and then also, gives us the ability to respond professionally. So, I think we need to send out to all the board members of the 2 responses that we did.
I have not sent anything out. but I
Okay.
can.
So we can do that, so everyone will see, what questions Penn Live has asked, and the responses that went back to them. No articles have been written, I mean, the primary topics have been, Franklin, Brown project, and our relationship or the lease surrounding, Brian Proctor, and also the relationship and contractual kind of, issues between Tri-County Housing and the redevelopment authority on that project. There's also been right to know requests 2 that have come in that sort of are around the redevelopment authority. They're not necessarily 100% topics that we, fully kind of own. Kevin and Caleb provided those responses, where appropriate. A lot of that is HUD kind of issues that some of which are able to provide, others are protected. So that's all just kind of ongoing. And I don't, Jeanette, if you want to add.
Yeah, sure. I think the authority's been very open and transparent with the reporter from Penn Live, and we've answered all of his questions. I doubt we're done with that, but yes, as Matt said, they've all been around those particular issues. And I don't know, as of yet, I've asked about when he's working on something to run in Penn Live, and I haven't gotten a response yet.
And we should all be aware the impact and cost on this. I mean, we are, nearing $4,000 just on legal costs on, and I don't think that's probably all the billing so far, on the right to know requests that have come in. That's gonna continue, I'm sure. We'll see some additional costs there. That does go into our general dollars. We are funded, through the county commissioners, through gaming dollars. That's essentially the dollars that we're using, for our general administrative costs. It would be great to be putting that into actual community and economic development, what we're
So
doing.
these
but
dollars are coming from the RDA and or the land bank?
They're,
Just one.
the issues, the right to know issues have primarily been redevelopment authority. They are redevelop, where there's a tax base redevelopment authority, not land. So far, nothing has touched the land bank. And what I'll say is we've taken on the issues in total, even though there's requests for emails and things of people that aren't us, but they're part of a full right to know requests.
We've
Kevin
talked,
and Caleb have been doing a lot of that work, or at least providing assistance on that work, just on behalf of the redevelopment authority, but it does connect into the county in general.
we've talked about that. I mean, obviously, we would like the money to go into programs. That's what it's for. So, it's something that we might not be able to address here, but you're right. A lot of these requests, some of them don't pertain to us necessarily.
That's
And
what
what they're
I was getting at.
requesting.
Is there a way to segregate those out? Getting the commissioners to pay for that.
Yeah, I talked to George about that, not George on the
Because
spot,
we're
but
a program based.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Out there.
right.
And to the extent that we're shelling out dollars to answer questions that don't pertain to us, it's
Right.
ridiculous.
I mean, the perfect example is, so we did the Franklin Bound project as the property owner, and to some extent, we quarterbacked. But dollars that went into that project came from a range of areas. None of those dollars actually came through the redevelopment authority. It was a partnership project. we didn't make decisions on HUD dollars. We don't make decisions on gaming dollars. The recipient of a lot of those was not us. Either went directly to Tri-County Housing or some of them in the past went through Still Borough, did not come through us. But the right to know requests start touching a lot of those areas. We can't deny that we were part of the project, obviously we were. We owned the land, put together, with Steelton and with Tri-County the deal, but yeah, should there be some cost sharing in that? Should there be some other way we address some of these right to know issues? Everyone's getting burdened with them. I mean, everybody knows that the right to know requests, without getting into issues of whether they're right, they're wrong, they should be coming in that, but we have to respond, that's the law, and it does get costly. So that's my only point, is that we need to look at that from a budget standpoint. If that continues, we need to know that we need to dedicate resources for responding. And we also probably should have some kind of a conversation with, whether that's, the chief clerk's office, the commissioner himself, but how are we going to address these costs? Who's responsible to pick these up, and how do we share it or whatever? Obviously, all of our funding is from them anyway. So if they want us to do that, fine, but they should just be aware that's where we're then spending those dollars, not on community and economic development projects.
Good to get to policy, that's written with the commissioners, the chief clerk's office, and this, recognizing that, like I said, these are programming dollars. Every dollar that doesn't go here doesn't go, or that goes to answer a right to know request doesn't go to the 239. It's simple math. And so in addition to like an overall policy, good to develop, evidence. Not that we want to rack up more dollars and put together a plan, but be able to show what percentage of requests have nothing to do with the RDA or the land bank versus.
Well, that's the problem, Frank, that, so the county has experienced almost double to triple the amount of right to knows over the last year and a half. That being said, we've never budgeted for right to knows. We never had to. So now we have to budget for right to knows. But how do you budget for right to knows when you don't know how many you're gonna get? So Alderman and I were discussing this, is like, what number do you put in the budget for right to know? You don't know if you're gonna get 100, you don't know if you're gonna get 1, right? But my point is, the Senate Bill 790 that was sent to me, they're opening up the right to know law, right? My thing is, why aren't expenses for attorneys, PR people, why aren't they in there? Like Penn Lodge should have to pay for that, or whoever is requesting these right to knows on the back end of diligence to provide the dollars to justify the situation, they should have to pay for that.
Oh, that's never going to happen.
I don't know why they should. Why should they?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it? You gotta pay for the paper to be printed. You gotta pay for everything else. Why should you have to pay for the
One
expenses?
exception, George, is like if somebody, if Penn Live or whoever.
Whoever. I'm not
would
picking on
do a
Penn
right
Live.
to know request, and you produce a green paper like that, right?
Right.
Emails, documents, all this other stuff, and staff time, so you put all that down. And then they say, oh, never mind. They don't show up. Then you have the ability to charge them. So am I right on that?
I think that is right.
And, but that's the only recourse. I mean, you can't just, say, Penn Live or WHCN.
But how does that make any sense?
Here's your bill for
Does
this.
that make any sense to me?
It does not need to make sense.
It doesn't make any
That's
sense
not
to me.
the only way is like, hey, you want something, there's a cost.
Yeah, the
For the
whole
paper.
philosophy is that, it's public information and it should be free.
Yeah.
Right? So you're never gonna get the legislature to say, okay, you can do a right to know program, but you're gonna have to pony up.
Yeah.
It's not the way it's going.
The production.
In the real world, let's get real, as somebody might say. Somebody, trust you.
But it's not real.
I think the conversation has to happen with the commissioners and the chief clerk as to cost, because ultimately that's their decision. If they want to keep showing out, us to keep showing out dollars for unicorn chases, that's their call.
Yeah.
You know, but it makes us less and less relevant in terms of dollars that we have to get stuff out of the county.
Well, I don't think, and I'm not speaking for the commissioners, but I don't think they're gonna pay for that. Because we are,
So we're less and less relevant.
we are a separate authority, right? We're our own 501c3 authority.
But
So
if
those,
we're answering
but those
questions that have
requests
nothing to do with
are our
us,
responsibility, right?
but if we're answering questions that have
Well-
nothing to do with us and everything to do with the county,
Yeah, that's my point.
we're having
George.
fewer dollars
Yeah.
available to us to fulfill their mission.
There are lines there that are tough because they can get gray. You know, what's us, what's somebody else.
Right. and
So
that's-
asking for information on HUD and awards that have been, HUD dollars, and awards that have been made, from, out of federal dollars that never touched us, that went into a project that we happened to be that we were the property owner on. Who's responsible for that? That's where the lines.
It's a commingling of projects
We've
and
brought
grants.
in-
That's why we're involved.
We just have to have the conversation. I'm fine that we keep spending the dollars on it. I don't like spending the dollars on it. I feel like, frankly, it's money that's not going to where it should go. Someone's going to spend money on it within the county. And if it's us, fine, but it just needs to be acknowledged and we need to be funded to do it. We don't make any money. Like there is no funding source at the redevelopment authority on projects we have. That's not been how this authority's been established or operated. We only exist and have dollars to act based on program funding we can secure or dollars that come from the county commissioners. The dollars that come from the county commissioners are always the most flexible dollars that we can get that we can use for administrative costs and general operating activities. Because most of the program dollars we get, while there might be some small amount we can pull out as an administrative fee, most of the time it's tied to operating that specific program. So I think we've all known that. I just think it's worth saying again that that's how we operate. We're part of a team. We're a tool in the toolbox. For implementing policies that are established by the commissioners. And but when we get these kind of costs, it's going to hit the budget here. And at some point we could spend who knows what a year. I don't know what the county's spending a year responding to these, but I know in municipalities, Diana Township, you start getting you can get.
How do you guys handle your rate?
Ship to the county.
They're the redevelopment authority. Just give us credit. We'll do it.
No, it's significant. We get 20 to 30 right to know requests. And vast majority of them are police reports. Right, so.
Yeah.
But, you have people submitting forms saying, I want to know where you store your office supply. And you just say rejected because that has there's no paperwork to say where you store state. But you still got to go through that. Somebody has to sit down, read it, make that decision, get a reply out, and then possibly defend it. And then deal with the right to know office, Commonwealth.
Would you have a solicitor review your right to know?
Typically not, except for the higher end value things. He's not going to review a statement.
Right.
What, like, for that example, why are we going to the nth degree? If I want a police report for the stop sign I have a hearing next week, doesn't the officer just say that's legally allowed to be given? Here it is. So what, if they want to know the emails George and I had last week, we don't need to run that by a solicitor unless it's about.
I think though that a lot of the information that is requested of us ends up being personal information, especially in these federal programs that, have to be redacted and make sure that it fits the mold of what information is allowable.
I know the ones we just went through, one in particular, we did not provide a lot of information. It was all personal, IRS, income, like stuff that just is not. And there's HUD HUD has rules and regs on what they say we're allowed to provide. So you almost have competing, you know, you have HUD says we can't give any of this stuff out, you have people who are requesting certain things. And, you know, you try to make the right call on those, of course, with legal counsel, and then wait to see which side, which side's gonna sue you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Vince is the right to know officer of the county. And
Right.
like you said, it gets a little gray in that, four of the people in here are county employees,
Yeah.
So if they say, I want to see his RDA emails, that's county
Yeah.
employees, we can
Right.
provide that to Vince. One of our county employees is being questioned on his I don't know if that helps at all, but it gets gray.
No, I
It's not like
agree.
the general authority where it's,
I agree with you on that, Dan, and that's where I think when and if future ones come in, we have to take hard looks at them. And is this just county and Vince, redevelopment authority's not paying for it, or no, this kind of ties with directly with redevelopment authority, and that shouldn't be our council and our dollars.
yeah, I mean, that might be a way to, I'm just suggesting that to save money on that portion of it.
Yeah.
If it's about you, the chairman, maybe that is for this board and the solicitor, but if it's about any staff, maybe we utilize the resources that we're already paying for as staff. I don't know.
Yeah, and again, just from my, reason I raise it, the whole topic is just really from a budgeting standpoint. And then just a public awareness that those costs exist. Here's how we are using these particular dollars to fund these things. Some of it is directly us, some of it is sort of tangentially us. But it does impact the county, and we're using dollars that the county commissioners approve for us in this way. It's not that those dollars aren't eligible to be used for that, but I think the intent, of course, is doing community and economic development. That's the hope and the expectation.
Well,
And we're redirecting some of those into operating costs to serve these. Make sure we respond appropriately to right the notes.
well, what could happen? Next, let's say the gaming advisory board put a special condition on our grant that none of those expenses could be paid for.
Well,
Then we got a problem.
then we got a
Then
problem.
everybody can know we have any money to pay for them.
Yeah.
Well, then you know what the answer is, George?
Am I right?
Absolutely.
You know what the answer is? You ship the bills to the chief clerk's office.
Yeah. But at the end
It's
of the
not
day.
in our mission. I mean, it's not part of our appropriation in your budget
I agree with
to
you.
answer right to know requests. It's to get stuff done.
That's my whole point, Frank.
Right. But
We're saying the same
First,
thing.
we have to have the conversation based with facts. With the chief clerk and the county. And just make further general awareness, right? But if things don't change and the costs keep escalating, or they don't, at least don't start going down, then we gotta talk about what's the best thing to do. I would just ship them off to Vince's, is Vince the right to know?
Yes, of the county.
And there are 4 or 5 solicitors up there. I'm not suggesting any of that, but I'm saying, when we make a copy for the right to know officer, or for the right to know request for this board, it's a county piece of paper, county copier, county machine. We don't build this area, we're county. 4 out of us. So it gets gray, maybe if it's not directed at an individual board member or a solicitor or contract, maybe it does go to this.
I think before it actually escalates, probably that's a good time to start.
Well, the problem is explosives. Kidding.
Yeah,
What
and
did Shakespeare say?
I mean, and these things always have, they have tight time frames.
Yeah.
So you certainly don't want to be unresponsive. You don't want to fall into that trap where, we have
Well,
complaints
then
that
that
file,
files
things
the
we're not
file rates no
getting.
request
Yeah,
because it
you
wasn't.
have to respond to them, you have to respond to them appropriately.
That's what it is. It's gotta be, look, it's gotten out of control, Frank. It's not fun. It's gotten out of
I'm not
control.
laughing, George.
No, I
No,
understand that.
no need to get disrespectful here. We're having a conversation
Frank,
that I'm trying to
I
have.
understand that. You and I are on the same page with this. We're saying the same thing. But my point is, at some point, we're gonna be out of money paying for these right to knows and it's not funny. So, but we're saying the same thing, right? I mean, you guys don't get,
It's not funny.
you guys don't get a quarter of the
Because
right
it's
to knows
fucking
we get.
ridiculous, is what it is.
You guys don't get a quarter of the right to knows we get. How many right to knows we have all in the last year?
Run a
150?
clean shop.
I mean,
Huh?
I don't know, a lot.
150?
I mean, honestly, you get done doing one and you
Yeah.
another. And it's not just this authority, right? I mean, we have 4 authorities and
Right.
we're a staff of 5. Like,
It's not
It's a
just,
lot of time spent.
legal
It's-
costs,
yeah,
It's staff
it's a lot of
time.
time.
staff time.
Okay, yeah.
We could talk about.
I mean, the law's the law on it, we're only gonna do it, I think at this point, unless something changes there, it's just how do we respond? And
I think
It's-
the
it's putting
legislature
up-
need to change that to the right.
I don't know.
There's got it.
The burden's gonna be there, and it's just trying to raise awareness that this needs to, like, from a county perspective, I think we just have to have that conversation, figure out how to handle it. And who's paying for it, where, which attorneys, whatever, just so we have that down when they come in, at least the process. And then an acknowledgement of, we're just not blowing through money here to blow through money. Like, we got a new added
But
burden.
it's like Frank, but it's Frank's point,
What we have to
these
do.
dollars should be infused in the projects, not frivolous right to knows.
Well, and let's face
That's
it
the
too, like,
problem.
a lot of the requests that we get aren't just simple, here's a police report. Right? Like, these projects that we have take years to get through, and they're digging into the minute details of some of these projects that are taking, days upon days to compile, to go back. I mean, they're not just an easy, oh, here, let's print this off and now it's sufficient.
Now, when I was the interim manager of Lower Sawyer Township, the reason I brought that up was Men St. Clair was, they got a bonus at WHTN for every right to know. Every month they had to file a right to know request somewhere. And Men St. Clair, my predecessor, for all this information, police issue. So that's what I thought about that piles of paperwork. And then I kept calling her, and she didn't want to take my phone call. So finally she did. I said, it's here. She said, forget about it, I don't want it, right? And I said, well, here's the cost to you, because I knew this was coming. And it was like $450. And I sent a check to Joe Logan, or an invoice, and he paid.
I think that's too where we kind of get on the hook,
So I've been there on
because
both sides.
Yeah,
it's not just all of the paper, like, right, you can charge a copy, but when you're talking about the electronic files that we can search, like, that's not reimbursable. Our time isn't reimbursable.
Mr.
So,
Frank, how much time did your staff spend getting that $450? You didn't add that into the invoice. I mean, that's, yeah, I
but
mean,
when they ask for electronic copies and we are dragging into OneDrive folders, and we're not incurring that charging of something.
I mean, so our costs are just gonna continue potentially to go up, depending on whether there's interest in information here, and if that's the case, we just have to keep having this conversation, so. We have dollars, but
well, it kind of goes
we're
back,
spending.
it kind of goes back to Fred's point. From me talking to some of the Penn Lot folks, like, they're like, why can't you create a database that you have all of your documents that potentially they would want a right to know in one area, and then they can grab them on their own, they don't need to follow it. They just grab them off of the URL, because anything you guys approve automatically goes in this database or this URL, they grab it off of there, they won't need to follow it.
Right, I think the public anyway.
Right.
So it's not easy, but it's doable, but you have to start somewhere.
Well, and that's it too. But when you're getting right to knows that are going back 20 years, almost, like, that's a lot of information.
Well, someone's gotta scan that in.
Right, but like, what I'm saying is,
Right.
that's a 20 years worth of information is a lot of information, considering the amount of work that all of the authorities in our office do.
All right.
Thoughts, you know?
Well, I'm glad we put it on the, I'm glad we had it on the agenda. So, all right, anything else on the correspondence miscellaneous board comments? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Figure you think he'd be fired up.
You second it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Back
And then you guys sit over there and laugh.
Aye. Oh, we at least got 3 votes on the adjourn. So we can adjourn. All right, thanks.
We don't want it.